Okay. Thank you everyone for joining. I would like to start by thanking the Unite Network for the invitation. And yeah, I will present a couple of the chapters of my already finished PhD thesis, and I will try to keep it quite simple. Although the content is wide, but I will keep it very simple so we can have a nice talk. So. Um, So about me, well, I'm currently a researcher and lecturer at Instituto Superior Técnico in Lisbon. My research interests are micromobility, socio-technical transitions in transportation, multimodal transport, and transfer policy. I would like to start with a brief concept about MaaS. MaaS this about the several definitions we can find online in the literature. I like this the most. Um, MaaS is a concept that integrates existing and new mobility services into one single digital platform, providing customized door-to-door transport and offering personalized trip planning and payment options. I like this definition because this is really complete, but at the same time, it's really ambitious and really hard to make it real, as we will see throughout the presentation. We will start with some discussion about the concept and a brief contextualization of MaaS. Then I will present some of the results of our MaaS preference study, and we will finish with the MaaS governance and the conclusions. So, beginning with the concept, in this figure, it's pretty self-explanatory. In the left, we have the current situation in many places where we have different payment methods for different modes of transport. And the MaaS model basically aims to consolidate all of them in a single mobility app. But it sounds simpler than it really is. MaaS was initially conceived as a way to reduce car ownership. And car sharing was one of the main features or one of the main ideas. So you don't need to buy a car anymore. That was the very first ideas of MaaS. Because you will have subscription services that will include all the transport options, so you won't need to buy or use your private car anymore. However, this idea didn't materialize. Researchers claim that there is no sufficient incentives to drop the car and use MaaS. So many of them start saying maybe this MaaS concept will fail and will not become a reality. But what we have argued during my research is that competing with the car is unrealistic. Like MaaS itself cannot compete with privacy, comfort, and the built environment factors that remain dominant in many cities. So the approach is that we should go beyond car-centric objectives when dealing with MaaS, as we shared in this letter to the editor that we published in Transfer Policy that I left in the literature. I saw that some of you already read it. And MaaS can enhance accessibility, equity, and public transport quality. So for us, the MaaS concept is a strategic tool for public authorities to steer urban mobility. So we kind of propose a different approach toward MaaS, forgetting about the car ownership and car reduction objective, which we believe can be a consequence, but not the objective of MaaS, and instead use it as a tool for public authorities. I will present a brief MaaS story, like just to understand where this comes from. So the MaaS concept was a master thesis proposed by Sonja Heikkilä in the University of Helsinki in 2014, and it got the attention of the Finnish Ministry of Transport, and they included into into the Finnish transport code like an idea to embrace MaaS through the promotion of data openness, allowing for ticket resale, and the MaaS field was created. In 2017, the Win app, that was like the main or the first MaaS app in the world, led by Sampo Hietanen, that was the supervisor of this previous thesis, was launched. And then at the same time in Australia, Professor David Hensher and his colleagues created the Sydney MaaS trial, that is to date the biggest MaaS pilot. However, the results were not so promising, and in 2021, not officially, but the rumor was MaaS is dead. Then in 2022, Hietanen and David Hensher proposed the mobility as a feature. So they proposed to let's stop talking about MaaS and let's move towards mobility as a feature by including non-mobility services into the subscription package to make it suitable. In 2023, the Win app filed bankruptcy, and we published this idea of refocusing MaaS because we believe the concept can still work. And in 2025, there are still some developments that I will share with you during this talk. So I want you to take a look at this map. This is for 2019, but it's pretty much the same today. Where are the MaaS systems and pilots, where they were deployed? And we can see a huge concentration in Europe and North America, and Australia, of course. But then in the global south, there are very few MaaS initiatives. So I want you to keep this in mind for what we will see in the following slides. So some of the issues with MaaS were that if we compare from other mobility innovation like ride hailing in the case of Uber, like the number of countries where Uber was expanding through time, it was pretty fast because they have a easily replicable business model. It was highly scalable. On the other hand, MaaS has a low replicability, has local competition, medium scalability, the geographic concentration. So the MaaS is much harder to replicate and to escalate than other mobility apps initiatives. And this is why I go back to what I said, MaaS should be for public authorities. I will present something that is there's a lot of discussion of what's a MaaS and what is not a MaaS. So the MaaS classification systems can play an important role. So every transportation app is a MaaS. We don't know if you don't have an app, but you have everything else, multimodal transportation and integration is not a MaaS. And not all MaaS or transportation systems has the same degree of integration. So for this SOCOR in Gothenburg proposed this level of integration idea that as you go up with the levels, then you have a more complete MaaS system. Beginning with no integration, separate services, which would mean that it's not a MaaS in the level 0, up until level 4, that with the integration of societal goals that at the time, like she didn't include Uvigo or WIM into the level 4. However, we find that these levels of integrations has several limitations, and there are other topologies to classify MaaS as the one with Lions and Bandera. The thing with this SOCOR topology is that we think these are really rigid hierarchical structures. So if you have one feature from a higher level, you will be stuck or classified in the lower level because you are missing some of the features. The one of Lions focus on operational integration without considering social objectives. And the one with Bandera is one of the first quantitative approaches but they didn't prioritize the different dimensions. So they rank the same way societal objective than trip information, for instance. What I mean is that one system may offer a subscription, but do not allow bookings via the app, making it difficult to compare one with another. That's why we created the Impress methodology to classify MaaS systems. And it is basically a binary method that evaluates 6 essential dimensions based on it was built on the previous topologies. And each system is assigned a code, a binary code, and it allows us to characterize and compare MaaS systems in a clear and objective manner. And we can clearly identify where are the opportunities for improvement in any transportation system. This is a summary of the method. We have 6 dimensions that are organized in a degree of complexity. We assume that reaching the societal goals is the hardest thing to integrate to MaaS, and that the information access, that in trip planning, is the easier dimension to include. So the Impress comes from the first letters. Basically, it sounds like a catchy word. So it worked for us. And we, based on these questions, we reply yes or no, and we award a 1 or a 0, and then we have our binary code. For instance, at the time when we designed this, the Uber Impress was at 001100, and we used this infographic to make it clear how to spot it. So you have electronic payment and you have booking, but you don't have multimodal trip planning. If you don't have transportation, public transport included in your services, we cannot award a 1 in the multimodality. We are kind of punishing those that don't include the public transport. There were no subscription services at the time. Now they have the Uber One thing. So and with this, we call this little bar here like the Impress score, or the degree of completeness towards a full MaaS. This is some example of the Impress classification. And basically the translation of these codes is for Uber, it allows payment and booking, but it's not multimodal. I can spot because there's a 0 here. The Navigante app, the Navigante, that is the transportation card in Lisbon, offers multimodal transport and subscriptions, but there's no booking via the app, and the app still doesn't work pretty well. So that's why it has some 0s. And we have Ubigo and WIM that at the time we awarded the 111 because the societal goals, they were working with the public authority, so we thought they deserved a 1 in that it was like should be a full MaaS system. The importance about this method is that if I compare this with the previous topologies, if we take, for instance, SOCOR topology to classify the same 3 systems I showed in the previous slide, Uber should be a 2, Navigante in Lisbon would be a 0, and the Lexipass, well, it's not the same as this is another system. It will be a 2, the same. So we have 3 different systems, and we have 2 with the same score, and Navigante is a 0, considering that it has a high degree of integration. For Leons, it will be all the same, and with the Impress, we can already, just by looking at the code, spot the difference of each of the systems. So Impress make it clear which features are missing in each system, and it allows for direct and objective comparison without a hierarchical ambiguity. And then we can translate this binary code, just convert it to decimal, and we have the Impress score that if we divide it by 63, that is the maximum score, that is the 6 ones code, is 63 in decimals, then divided by it, we will have 22% in this case of completeness of a MaaS. more results. We have the UMAG, that the translation is like water in Taipei. That is a public-led MaaS that has everything, the 100% scoring in the Impress. We transfer for London, for instance, is a really high Impress score. And we have some simpler apps like City Trips that is basically a multimodal planner. It has is scored really low. So it's a pretty versatile tool that I want to share, and that it allows to compare systems, and you can decide, okay, this is a MaaS, this is not a MaaS, or what is missing to become a full MaaS, etc. So it's a flexible, objective, and practical tool. Works for any type of system. It works for any type of shared mobility innovation, not only for MaaS. We can adapt it to changes or improvements. It's easy to interpret and allows you to identify gaps in the different services. This is the case of Navegante in Lisbon, that it's pretty high, but if they can make the app actually to work pretty well, don't have so many complaints of the users, then it will easily reach 100%. The limitations, we need more data for improving these systems. We need to validate our assumption of the weighting of each of the dimensions. And we would like to see if we can expand this to smart hubs onto other transport innovations. So Impress is a useful tool. It allows you to identify what's missing. It helps decision maker, improves integration and accessibility. It's transparent, practical, and equitable, and it allows decisions to be made for regulations or interventions. If you want to read more of this, I uploaded it in the literature, and it's also published in Transport Policy. Now we go to section 2. This is maybe one of the most insightful results of this talk. We conducted all that I'm going to present is based on a MaaS global survey spanning all these cities that are here in the map. So we make sure we capture cities from the global south. So we stop having all the research on MaaS only in the global north. And we have almost 4,000 valid response, assessing the intention to use and the bundle preference of users and potential users. The meet the team slide, I mean, there was too many people, as there are too many cities to put all the pictures of all of them, so I prefer to show a map. And the different universities that were involved in the project, from the Chinese University of Hong Kong, from TU Delft, Technical University of Munich, the Instituto Superior Técnico, of course, the Universidad de Valencia, and some universities in Latin America, like the Universidad Nacional in Colombia and Universidad San Sebastián in Chile. So regarding transfer innovation, we have transfer innovation not always is as smooth as people think. There's always a shock in society when we introduce new modes or new services. We have here like broken e-scooters, vandalized bike sharing, self-driving cars that are crashing with a delivery robot. So it's not easy, or you will always find some resistance when you try to innovate. And we have a really famous picture of a camera guy in a Segway crashing into Usain Bolt after a competition. So we need to know what people prefer and what's the perception of the innovation we are trying to include in the society. That's why there's this division of innovation model. I don't know if you have heard of this before, but it's basically saying that when you try to innovate, you will always find the resistance, and slowly there are some people that will join first, and the adoption will start. If the innovation is successful, of course, there will be some adoption, and the curve will start to increase, and then the leverage will be the last one to join. So I think we should keep this in mind whenever we are proposing something. We need to understand people. We cannot just impose our idea without considering the cultural and the socioeconomic context of the city that we are dealing with. That's why we wrote this paper that it's not published yet, but I hope it will publish soon. That will we all accept it? Will we all embrace MaaS or not? Because we have government bodies, there's unequal access to technology, there are mismatches between what MaaS is offering and what people need or want. And given almost all studies have been conducted in the global north, we didn't have any idea what's happening in the global south. Is there a market? Is there a business opportunity there? Will create more inequalities if we bring it to the global south or not? Should we design a one-size-fits-all MaaS? And for this, we relied on the United Theory of Acceptance and Use of Technology that was proposed by Venkatech in 2012. It was designed for a more corporate environment, but has since then been applied to different transportation research, like e-scooters, and now we are using it with MaaS. And it basically says that there are some subjective things like effort expectancy, performance expectancy, the social influence, the hedonic motivation that will actually influence the behavior, the behavioral intention, and the adoption of a new technology. So we applied this to MaaS, and we propose this model where we are based in this theory, but also introduce new subjective variables like the sustainability awareness and the tech savviness. So all the rounded rectangles or ovals that you see here are subjective variables, and the ones that are rectangles are directly observed variables. And we did a stratified analysis using the IMPRESS score that I already explained. So within the cities that we did the survey, we have cities that score high, medium, or low IMPRESS, and we tried to see if these variables will have the same behavior in all these three different contexts. So this is a little bit of the description of the cities. We had a really diverse case studies. We have big cities, small cities with highly populated, low populated, rich cities, poor cities with high Gini index, with low Gini index. And this was the classification. So the high IMPRESS, we have Ghent, Hong Kong, Lisbon, and Valencia. Medium IMPRESS, we got Porto Alegre, Santiago, and Bogota. And low IMPRESS, we have Barranquilla in Colombia and Manila in the Philippines. So this provides like a really solid base to understand different contexts. And as we classify this by IMPRESS, similar cities can just say, okay, if I'm impressed, then my results could be similar to those, and so on. I will not explain all this model. What we did with this it was a structural equation model, a multi-group structural equation model, and this was the result for the general SEM. I will not explain step by step, but just highlight a few variables. For instance, the commute satisfaction. Commute satisfaction was negative, and this would mean that the higher people are satisfied with their current commute, the lower they will try to adopt MaaS. And this was quite of a shocking result at first, but when you start thinking about it, it makes much more sense because, well, if you are already happy with what you want, then why would you just try something new if what you have is already working well? The car ownership is negative, and this supports the premise that I shared you in the beginning of the presentation, where I was saying that MaaS is not going to get people out of the cars. And now with the model, we have another thing to support it. The gender, some people said that MaaS could generate some gender gap. And what we had here is that it was not significant. So we have no statistical information to say that the gender will play a role into the MaaS intention to use. But we do have that middle-aged people with the effort expectancy that this digitalization of transport services entails could be a barrier. So this is something that we have to take into account when we are designing the mobility apps. So the commute satisfaction, if we compare the Impress score with the commute satisfaction per city, we saw that there's a clear relationship. The higher the Impress, meaning the most integrated, the most innovative, the most digitalized, I don't know if that's a word, that the city has, then the more satisfied on average the commuters are. And the lower your integration is, the lower the satisfaction, which means that the market, there could be a potential market for MaaS when in cities that are not yet that does not have at the moment a mature MaaS system. And I think that's really important, because what we see in practice is that people are putting all the effort here and all MaaS systems are being implemented here, and really few are in this area. And maybe here is the like where the business are, or where the most potential is. So so the Impress shows that the fundamental idea behind MaaS is it's associated with overall passenger satisfaction. There is a positive relationship between cities that prioritize innovation and user satisfaction too. MaaS can improve overall quality of urban transport in cities with poor mobility. And our results show a strong but negative relationship between the maturity of an urban transport system and the likelihood of MaaS adoption. These are the hypotheses that we tested, and the results, I will not, because of the time, go one by one, but I will share the slides and we can discuss this afterwards through email, LinkedIn, or whatever. Our main finding is that MaaS acceptance is higher in cities with low Impress score and with a lower commute satisfaction level. People are more eager to try new things. And our findings highlight the need to go beyond the notion that whatever we apply in the global north will apply universally for the rest of the world, because the latent variables that we tried didn't have the same performance in all the different contexts. So it is crucial to acknowledge the various cultural, social, and infrastructure realities that influence mobility requirement and practice in various geographical areas. So now we know that we need different MaaS systems, but which services should we include in these offerings? MaaS is a mobility package, so should I offer everyone shared bikes plus ride hailing, or what people do really want? So which service should be offered? Would predefined bundles work, or is better to just each user just build their own bundle? Although this will be a challenge for the operators. Will they work everywhere? So this was quite fun activity we did in the survey, where we just gave people the opportunity to allocate different transportation budget in 10 different services, mobility services, whatever the way they want it. And based on this, we again use the Impress level to group the cities, transforming this into rankings, and we conducted a cluster analysis to identify if there are some predefined bundles, and then we rank them, use the board account. Board account is a methodology like to score, basically. If you don't know what it is, just think about the Formula One championship, not always like someone who always was the second through all the whole championship could become the champion, because it's a point championship, is not who was the first. So we use the same thing, the same logic, and we have these really interesting results. So for cities with high Impress, we had 3 bundles, and we call each bundle like a different type of urbanite, like to try to do some profiling. So we call this first bundle the comfort first motorist with 32 of the respondents. And then the second, the micromobility skeptic, that is someone that prefers public transport but has nothing to do with shared mobility or micromobility with 45%. Then the eco multimodal with 23% is someone that complements public transportation with short bikes and ride hailing. And to highlight, public transport was ranked first in 2 of the 3 clusters. We have ride hailing, top 3 in all of them. We have parcel and food delivery being ranked higher than like things that car sharing. So car sharing is a service that is secondary to people in high impressed cities. If we go to the medium impressed, the thing is similar. We have the convenience driven, that is someone that wants public transport plus ride hailing, basically, and taxis. The app-based individualist is someone that just want anything about public transport, just want ride hailing, food delivery, and parcel delivery. And we have the micromobility skeptic again with 37%. Again, we have public transport ranked first in 2 of the 3. We have ride hailing top 2 in all of them. Parcel delivery and food delivery always ranked in the top 4. Well, except in the first cluster. And in the low impressed bundle, we also have similar results with the micromobility skeptic, with the convenience driven again, but we have a new type of urbanite in these low impressed cities, that is the two-wheelers lover. That is someone that wants moto taxi and scooters and shared bikes, because maybe congestion related to avoid the congestion in these cities. But we still have two of the 3 clusters with public transport being ranked first, and food delivery also a thing to highlight. So we see that there are major differences in user preference on how to bundle the services. The one-size-fits-all thing is totally unfeasible. Public transport is very clear that is the backbone of MaaS, and it's not car sharing. So this supports everything that I've been mentioning before. Home delivery services are highly preferred, so operators should assess, I would not say included, because it should be carefully addressed because of the urban dynamics and the safety related issues and all of the other things that these services can bring. In low impressed services, this moto taxi thing, or the popular transport as people call it, deserve attention. So there are already some roadmaps on how to try to integrate this popular transport instead of just forbidding it, that may work. And for a widespread adoption, I think we should treat MaaS and even public transport as a product, not in terms of profitability, but in terms of marketing. We need to advertise as the private, as an iPhone, and everyone does it. We can do it with the public transport. So successful MaaS requires breaking the silos. And I will end with this governance, that is the biggest issue in MaaS, because MaaS has integration issues. The integration of different services, it sounds easy, but it is not. When you have so many stakeholders, it's hard to achieve. There are resistance from operators to share trips, their information. This is one of the main challenges. Not all MaaS has the same degree of integration. Not all cities are as prepared to embrace MaaS as others. Public authorities don't know how to manage MaaS concept, basically. And the business model is how to distribute revenue, for instance. If we are going to subsidize MaaS, who should be subsidized and how much? What to do with data sharing? What to do with public space? We should give public space to bike sharing operators to use it or not. This kind of agreements that needs to be done are some of the challenges. And more importantly, should it be public, private, public-private partnership. So how will we share the users between Uber, Bolt, or the public transport? And there are no clear conceptual frameworks to define this. So should we regulate it or leave it to the free market? If we regulate it, we will hinder innovation because of the bureaucracy. But if we leave it to the free market, we can gentrify transport, which is something that we don't want. As transport planners, transport researchers, the least thing we want is to create social territorial inequalities. So we have to consider all the stakeholders of MaaS. We have transport users, transport operators, MaaS providers, the governmental agencies, physical participation, electronic participation. This is really complex environment. And moreover, we have different levels of intervention from the public authorities. We have a central government, regional government, and local authorities, each of them with a different degree of participation or of involvement in MaaS implementation. And the coordination between this level is essential, but it can be really hard for something as simple that maybe the central government is in a different political party or has a different agenda than the local authority, and this mismatches hinders MaaS development. Governance models. I know there's a lot of text here, but I just leave it for you to read it now that after I share the slides. Each of the governance models has its pros and cons. For instance, the public-led, of course, it can enhance equity, but it can hinder innovation. If we have a private one, we will have innovation, but the public interest will not be the same. We have lock-in risk. We have lack of transparency, for instance. If we have the public-private partnership, it can be a good alternative, but then we can also have some coordination cost, agreement. So each of the model, which one is the best, it depends on the context. We have some market-driven with light public regulation, and we have this one that is like a little crazy proposal, if you ask me, but that may work in certain scenario. That is having, for instance, a decentralized autonomous organization, like it works in some blockchain. That is a community-driven MaaS where the community make the decisions. So, of course, it has empowerment, it has transparency, it has trust, but to make it work, we have some other difficulties. So there is no perfect governance model. It depends on the policy goals, the market maturity, the institutional capacity, and the legal context. So in my vision, MaaS will always operate, should always operate under the supervision or leadership of the transport authority, because the advantage of MaaS will only be achieved through government intervention. And the government can influence or implement policies and manage space, avoid the lack of cooperation, monopolization, etc. So how can we define the level of involvement of public authorities? And I will end with this, a couple of minutes more. We need to consider the complex interactions between land use and the transportation network, social conditions, user preferences, and what we propose is to have multi-level perspective and meta-governance theories join to help to define the role of public authorities. What's multi-level perspective is an analytical tool that helps you understand how technology and new innovations can scale up and become a reality. And you analyze stakeholders, barriers, etc. It was proposed by Gills, 2002, and it was something like this. So you have a niche that is the innovation, and what you want is it to become the regime here, to become the reality, but it will be influenced by landscape development, microeconomic factors, climate factors, cultural factors, etc. On the other hand, we have meta-governance, that is like an evolution of governance, is the governance of governance that is suggested to be applied when you have complex interactions between stakeholders, as it happens in MaaS. And it says that this model of you have a hierarchical state that just dictates everything, it is not practical in the current state of urban dynamics. So if we join these two methodologies, like using MaaS as a niche, using the transportation network, using preference or regulations like the current regime, like what's happening in reality, and the demographics, macroeconomy, and cultural patterns, and the landscape. If we consider all of this and apply meta-governance theories, then we can obtain the role of public authorities. For this, we gather information about users, institutional design, resources, data sharing, network, area, if it's rural or urban, technology, infrastructure, and then we're going to start doing the MLP. So the niche would be a public-led MaaS. This is just an example. The landscape, you have stabilizers and destabilizers. There are things that can foster your innovation or resist to the innovation. The stabilizers are your enemies, so to say, and destabilizers are your opportunities. For instance, the law for car and private property, the built environment, and the stabilizers could be the inflation, diffusion of technology, the degree of public awareness about externalities. And the regime, we have lockup mechanisms that are your enemy and cracks that are your opportunities. The same must not be a priority for stakeholder is a killer in our case. Policy for the car, lifestyle, people just like the status quo, it will be really hard to implement. The public transport authority aversion to transform and innovate, then there's no MaaS if we have it. Operators not willing to integrate. With the crowds, we have new generation preferences, the physical constraints of the car, that making it harder to use the car, and the pedestrianization of the cities can play in our favor. So these are the things to consider, and these are the possible roles of the public authority. So we, based on Hirschhorn research, we use the roles that he proposed, or she proposed, from analyzer to provider, using a hands-off approach to a hands-on intervention that should be the public authority doing everything. And for this, we bought this tool that I know that it's kind of hard to put it into a slide, but if you have the time after the lecture, after the talk, to take a look at it, to try, then using the Impress classification of your city, you can try and see a match which will be the role of the public authority, the most suitable role of the public authority in your city towards MaaS adoption. Should be an architect, only lawmaker, experimenter, and we can discuss afterwards. So with this, I close the future of MaaS. We need to address business model and governance challenge. I suggest to have MaaS led by public authorities. We are moving from MaaS to MAF, to super apps. People are already including insurance, gyms, home delivery services, among others, like MaaS 3.0. I received this, for instance, in my email, like the internet company offered me scooter trips, discounts, and Uber One subscription. So it's a web that is starting to reach everywhere. More examples of where MaaS is going. This one has everything, this app, public transport, rides, scooters, cargo. If you want to move, it also helps. Delivery services, all towards the super apps. And if we want MaaS to work, we should have qualified and autonomous dedicated teams. We should modernize the current infrastructure, because with legacy systems, it will be really hard to do it. Pilots are not enough. We should reach a consensus with operators, develop a knowledge sharing platform so successful cases could be replicated. Marketing, we need marketing. And I would suggest you to read the MaaS Scotland roadmap, because in Scotland, they are trying to build a national MaaS system, and it's quite interesting. And with this, I end. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think I took too much time, but thank you.